Okay, let's talk career ladders here. So let's get a visual going just for the hell of it. Google search, we'll use that one. So if you look at this, this is showing the career ladder from an assistant manager up to a VP. Now, in reality, most people are going to have as low as contractor on a production line up to CEO, right? It could be anything for you. There's going to be some movement within it. So the logic for us is to try to figure out how much we're going to make at each step so we can get where we want to be, and or if you have an idea in mind for your career, which is I want to get to this specific type of work, and you know where that is, same sort of approach, different metric, right? So first thing we're going to do here is move into the BLS data. Why? Because in order to understand where we can go, we need to have a picture of what's out there to go into. So in this case, we're going to go BLS wage data. Okay, and occupational employment wage statistics from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Good. This is US, obviously, but that'll do for now. So from here, you have options. Now, I know personally the May 2023 data set is more complete and filled in than the 2024 is, just because I've used it a few times for different things. So let's start there. I would suggest you look at the HTML. You could export the whole thing in Excel if you really wanted to, but at this level of what we're looking at, HTML is just fine. Stay on the web. Okay, so I will walk through quick with you what they're doing here. Each of these groupings this is all groupings in total, but everything here down is how the BLS people organized by group the types of work people are doing. Okay, and that breaks down even further below. So let's take a look at that. Here's your all occupations. So the average, or not average, the mean income in the U.S. is about 65,470 in 2023. Okay, and that's roughly 31.48 per hour. And there were 151.8 million people employed, is what this is telling you. Okay, those are your base stats. So if we move into the subgroupings, here's management. Let's skip past management for now, but we'll use this for one example. Each grouping in this table, so for example, top executives, is actually the three below it combined. So the way you know that is there are 3.751 million people considered in this category. And if you look at that, it says minor, and then it says detail, 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 and it's back to different minor. So if you add the totals up on these details on employment, those numbers equal here. So these three, chief executives, general operations managers, and legislatures, are all grouped into the top executives category, I guess you could say. And then that's an average. So this is averages and then details across the whole data set, and the entire thing operates that way, just to keep that in mind. So let's go down to something that's more applicable to us here. So let's say you're getting into business, and if you're like me, you want to be an analyst, right? Because I am right now. Eventually, I'll go into management, maybe we'll see. But the logic here is you want to find two or three things that kind of reflect what you can do with your career. So logisticians, I think, might be applicable to me. Project management might be applicable to me. So let's open that one. Management analysts, okay, it says analyst in the title, so that's probably pretty fair. And you might find one or two more things here. I don't. So let's go down a little bit more because I'm technically a business analyst, and that's in the computer systems analyst grouping. Now, if you don't know what these things mean, good news. You can just open tab up and read a description of what these people do. So this will tell you that these are people that go through and they manage everything from products, distribution, delivery, disposal of resources. So this is like inventory, supply chain, transportation, etc. Okay. A lot of people start in roles that are logistician like and move into analytic roles over time. So you could always move back to those roles at a higher level as well. So this is still within the range that you're looking for. Now, what do the details here tell you? Here's your percentile range. So someone starting in the 10th percentile of their career ladder would be like entry level, right? First job coming out of high school or college. And if you're a logistician in the US, you can expect your first job is going to be paying around 47,990. Okay. Now think about it this way. You're probably considered to be entry level from the first day you're employed until probably year two, because that's kind of the timeline people typically look at for entry level roles. So they're saying within the first 1 to 3 years of your job, anywhere you go, on average, if you're in this field, you're going to make about 47.9. Okay, and if you move up, you can say here's an early career person that's got some experience. Maybe they're in their second role or they got promoted once. Okay, cool. They're probably making around 61. And this comp breakdown roughly equates to the career ladder trajectory that you're going to have as you move up roles. So entry level, kind of early experience career, median, so kind of middle of your career. Okay, and as I said, median and mean are different. So this is about 79K, and the mean is about 84.6. So if you want to look at mean, you could say, well, if someone's going to spend their entire career in this field, across the entire time they're in this field, they're going to make on average, early and later in their life, averaged about 84.6 every year across time, if you balance that all out to one number. Okay, this is just saying, hey, the middle person employed in this field is at 79.4. So then you could say, okay, what happens at the 75th percentile here? So this might be someone who is well experienced in their field. They've been in it 15, 20 years maybe, or maybe you're at like a very high end consulting firm, or maybe you work in Silicon Valley doing this and they're paying you a ton of money because you're in an expensive, high paying industry. All these things factor in, but realistically, you can say, hey, if you're pretty experienced, you're very good at your job as a logistician, you're going to make about 101. And then if you're in the top 10%, you're going to make 128, 500 a year plus, is functionally how you look at this data. So you can plan your career ladder against this data set and say, okay, where could I go if I stay here? Now, not everyone's going to stay in one spot. So let's take a look at how you could lay this out, understand where you could move across to different ladders within your career to get where you want to be. So here's an analysis I did earlier for a friend of mine. I'm helping out with his job search. And functionally, let's say he is right here. Okay. Let's say he's right here, and let's pretend he's the mean. I know what he's actually making, but we're not going to go in that level of detail here. Let's pretend he's the mean income. Okay. And he's like, what do I do for my career? Well, you have these areas, which are all similar to what you do that you could move into, that all make more money than you at the current level at the mean, right? Even if he moved backwards technically from the mean income of a logistician and he made a career switch over into kind of lower mid-level management because he has that much experience, he could make that move. He can move up into maybe the 102 range or at least higher than 85, right? That's what this is telling me. So I'm here. What could I move into? I could move up into management, and I could go 50th percentile or even below that and still make more than I make on my current career ladder within logistician supply chain direction. Or he could say to himself, well, I actually do a lot of work with numbers already in my role because I'm getting experienced in it. I could maybe swing it into a management role, right? Or sorry, an analyst role. So if he went into being like an operations and research sort of role in the analytic field, he could move from 85 to 96. And then down the road, in the future of his career ladder, instead of moving up to a cap of maybe 129 or around that, I don't know how high he's going to end up in his career, TBD, but instead of moving up into 129 as maybe your career cap, if he moves into operations research analytic work, his cap is closer to 150 now. So he can use this to plan moving laterally, moving up, and where he does want to move around across time. So that's kind of how you use BLS data to get where you want to be, understand your career ladder, and where you can go to make more money. And let's talk money for a second. If you're not looking for money specifically here, that's fine. Some people want to get to a certain level where they can do the sort of work that interests them, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't even know where to go, though, I suggest you take a look at my video linked in the description that goes into how to choose your career, specifically based off personality and other factors. And hope to see you there. Otherwise, we're going to wrap this one here. But as a fun side note for anyone that's still on this, if you get into numbers the way that I plan to in this channel and you become good at it, you can do things like this to visualize better for yourself what you want to get into, where, and how. Okay, this is a general bell curve of these 5 areas averaged across time. Okay, so if I was making 65K a year right now in my friend's position, which he's not, he's making more than that, but if he was, he could say, ooh, I'm between the 35th and 25th percentiles right now, which means I'm basically roughly the 30th percentile of income in this zone. I'm underpaid because in his case, he's kind of mid-career, so he would be underpaid significantly compared to the average. Now, that obviously that wasn't him, but that's how you could look at this data if you were to visualize it in this manner. Um, the other thing you could do, being this was 2023 data, is you could add a modifier that says, hey, since 2023 on average, according to the BLS data, also found online through Google, it's about 0.9% change in increase in earnings across those 2 years. So you can make a modifier and then you can apply that to this data set here and figure out what you should be making today if you were going to go and negotiate your comp with your employer or whatever you want to do. So, hope this has been helpful. If you have any comments, if you want a deeper dive on how the BLS numbers work, if you'd like my help with your career and planning, drop it in the comments. Hope to hear from you. Have a great day.